Hey, business owners, I have with me Mez from OMG, who are the absolute SEO experts in Australia. Mez, big welcome.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be on the show, so thank you.
Fabulous, Mez. Before we start, tell us how to pronounce your name and tell us a bit about OMG.
Okay, so my last name is Homayunfard, so it's an Iranian name, so a bit of a tongue twister. I am one of the co-founders at Online Marketing Gurus. So we're one of Australia's leading search agencies. So we have an evidence-based framework for delivering search that we've built through our research team. We have a team of close to 120 staff and contractors between Sydney, Singapore, New York. We love helping businesses with performance marketing and search and helping them drive more leads and traffic and conversions.
Fabulous, Mez, and really cool to really pick your brain. Business owners, I want this to be like a master class in SEO and Google Ads. I'm sure you're itching to learn some really cool advice, get some really cool advice. And who better can we get than Mez? Mez, tell us, everybody says this myth, or is it a fact when people says SEO is dead?
I've heard people say that before, certainly. I think SEO is very, very far from dead, and there's a number of reasons for that. SEO we still see is taking up anywhere between 60 and 70% of all of the clicks which occur within the search engines. And we find that, if you look at other marketing studies, there's a big degree of perceptual blocking where people don't like to look at ads. We are seeing the amount of people clicking on ads in the search engines increasing, but we're still seeing a large lion's share coming through SEO. So I definitely say SEO is not dead. It's just evolving and it's becoming different from what it was a few years ago when it was about search engine trickery and keyword stuffing, and it's becoming a lot more now about really authentic content and authority. So it's definitely not dead, it's just changed.
So as you correctly say, SEO has evolved. It's still very important in the world of digital. Large percentage still check the organic results as opposed to the ad results. If I'm not wrong, I heard somewhere somebody said it was about 40% ads and 60% SEO organic. Would those numbers be right? And are there other numbers that we need to look at?
In short, it is quite accurate, but depending on the studies you look at can change this. So for different types of search queries, triggers different types of results. So for instance, now if you Google certain keywords around how to bake a cake or something informational, you're actually seeing now Google Knowledge Graph, which can get up to 55, 56% of clicks. So we're seeing it is roughly, I'd say, a 60-40 split. It used to be maybe 80-20 about 6 or 7 years ago, but it's in that region.
Fantastic. So thanks for sharing that with you, because these are the questions business owners have, because, there are so many opinions when it comes to digital. It's so hard to know what's fact and what's fiction. You correctly said that, SEO and is today more about content and about authority, as opposed to, the tricks and all the black hat and all this stuff people used to talk about. Tell us a bit about that. Would you mind expanding?
Yes. So for everyone's benefit, there's been several key studies which have been done in this particular area. And being an evidence-based business and having a research team, for us, it's really important that anything, we say about search engines is based around some evidence and data. So the ones that I'm going to be talking about, there were 3 major studies. So one was by a guy named Brian Dean. So if you Google Brian Dean 1 million URL analysis, as well as SEMrush search ranking factors, V1 and V2, they have a data set where they've looked at, I'd probably say, close to 4 million websites. They've really tested this statistical confidence. And really what SEO comes down to, and we've done our own meta-analysis across that with our own research, SEO comes down to 3 key areas of fluency that Google looks at when they rank a website. The first is to do with technical SEO, which was all about making sure that we have the right types of markup on the website. So is the website actually easily being able to understood by Google? And this comes down to actually understanding the different types of ways we can mark up content, and not just things like title tags or meta descriptions, although that does formulate part of it. That's about 20% of the equation. 20% is to do with relevance and content. which is about understanding how are our users actually searching for these products. And then the second thing is actually shaping our site content and structure around those users. So it's about understanding the brand and the mind and the psychology of how people are searching through keyword research, and then shaping the site content and structure around that. One of the interesting things that came out of the Brian Dean study was that the average length of a piece of content, which ranks in position 1 in Google, is 1,960 words. So I remember when I started in the industry, everyone used to say, oh, you need 500 words of content on a page. It's like, well, actually, average piece of content's close to 2,000. That ranks in the top spot. But relevance and content is about 20%. And the remaining 60 is to do with something called domain authority, which is the offsite SEO. And that's all to do with having the right types of links, a good quality mentions around the web. So it's based on those three things rather. Technical SEO, 20%, relevance, 20%, authority, 60% loosely.
Fantastic. There you go. To the business owners out there, you heard it. And I think what Mez said just now was so valuable. And we really got to dig deeper to really understand some of those key points Mez made. Mez, I'm really thankful for you for sharing that. You know, one of the biggest issues small and medium enterprises have is not everybody has the budgets to come to do SEO correctly with professional organizations. So there are those who can afford them, and there are others who probably don't fall into that. So I'm going to touch on both those segments of the marketplace, if you want to call them. What things can the smaller businesses do who don't have the bigger budgets, they're just starting up? What are the top things they can do? And then let's discuss what those with a budget can do and what organizations like you can help them with.
Absolutely. So it's a fantastic question, and it's something that we see a lot of, because obviously SEO services, I mean, they're not good quality SEO services, and managed SEO is not a cheap thing to deliver. So like on any project that we're working on, you know, there's several $1,000s a month worth of tools. You've got a technical SEO consultant, you've got a content specialist, you've got a link builder, and obviously it does stack up. So, you know, the couple of things I advise to clients is they don't quite have the budget yet to go and engage an agency, is to actually go and do some learning. There's some great learning resources, paid and unpaid, online. So udemy.com has heaps of great training courses on SEO. There's another one done by a really good friend of mine, Kate Toon, the SEO copywriting success course. So I would say the first step is education, and that education will not only to help you learn about the optimization process and how you can do it yourself, but more importantly to know what the process is, so when you do go to engage an agency, you know, you don't become one of the, you know, so several thousand businesses that complain to the ACCC about SEO companies. Yes. So I would say education first and foremost, really, really important. And the second is to really just focus on the three key things that we mentioned. So building up our authority. So, you know, where we see opportunities to get our website mentioned and content partnerships around the web, that's something, you know, it does help to have an SEO agency do it and scale it. But in the absence of that, it's something which you can do yourself and you know, sort of get relatively good outcomes to a certain point. And from a content perspective, producing good quality long form content, one of the things I always say is to start with the end in mind. So if you know you've got a really good competitor, let's say you've got a small plumbing business, and you know, there's a competitor who's ranking in position 1 for all of those major keywords, you know, plumber Sydney or plumber wherever location, you know, look at what they're doing and benchmark them on those three key things. So, you know, relevancy, what type of content do they have, how long is the content, and then produce content that's better than what the competitors do. Things like, you know, their domain authority. There are free tools online like Uber Suggest, where you can see where they're getting their links from, so you can go and target those same sites. So I would say, you know, understand the framework. We've got to be technically relevant, we've got to have relevant content, and we've got to have authority. So how can I build those three things up? And it's a very logical and pragmatic process. So I would say you're much, much better off investing $500 or $1,000 in really good training and doing it yourself than getting a cheap outsourced SEO service where they end up doing more damage than good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mez. Again, you mentioned about education and the importance of education, and you mentioned a few sources. You mentioned Udemy. Is there a particular course in Udemy viewers can watch that you recommend?
I would recommend actually the Kate Toon SEO copywriting success course, recipe for SEO success rather. That one is a little bit more expensive, but it's very, very comprehensive. I don't have any off the top of my head that I know of in Udemy, but I have seen a lot of those training materials before, and they've been very good and very well priced.
So thank you so much. That is very useful. And also you mentioned about using some right tools to make sure you check your authority. You mentioned Suggest as one of them. And of course, there are other tools that people can use as well. I want to say to the audience, I'm an expert in this field. Having listened to Mez, I can tell you what he's saying is absolutely correct, because there are thousands of providers out there who I know Kate Carnell from the Ombudsman, Small and Medium Enterprise Ombudsman, or the Small and Family Enterprise Ombudsman for Australia, was hunting down poor SEOs because lots of small businesses were getting really poor experiences, and that was a huge issue. I read somewhere the work she was doing in that regard. So there's a lot of poor experiences business owners have had with SEO. So that's why I'm so thankful for Mez for sharing this stuff with us. Mez, when it comes to tools, what are the tools business owners should be using to scan their websites, to analyze? You spoke about technical SEO, what's working and what's not as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I have a few, tools that I love and different price points. So probably my favorite all-rounder tool is semrush.com.
Mm-hmm.
That tool has very, very comprehensive content auditing capabilities, link building capabilities, can tell you exactly where your competitors are ranking with how many searches to what URL. So really empowers business owners who want to do the DIY to really get in source a lot of that information. It even has a keyword magic tool where it can get you some, really good information around how to optimize for certain keywords and having the right type of content. And SEMrush is pretty reasonably priced. It's about $100 a month or something like that. If you want to go a level up from that, there's another suite of tools which I've used before called Mangools, Mangools, which has some very, very specific functionality. So they've got different modules, for instance, for finding keywords, SERP analysis. So it's a little bit more, I'd say, the next level up in terms of doing DIY.
Yeah.
Third is actually a tool, and this is my absolute favorite. It's very expensive, but it's absolute, just fantastic information, is ahrefs.com.
Mm-hmm.
So that tool has like one of the biggest, if not the biggest database of backlinks. It's got a fantastic keyword research tool where you can put in a keyword and it'll tell you the average length of content, how many backlinks you'll need on average, where you could potentially get backlinks from. Mm-hmm. So Ahrefs is out of control, but it is a little bit more expensive. I think it's like €500 a month or something like that. So there's different tiers on how much you're happy to spend, but those would be the top three.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. And you mentioned about Suggest earlier. How does Suggest compare with the three tools you just mentioned?
Suggest, I would say, does a good combination of all of the different tools. Mm-hmm. So I definitely recommend Suggest and think it's a fantastic tool.
So thank you for that. I was about to ask you what you thought of Ahrefs, because that's the tool we use in-house for our work. I got to say, you guys are specialists in this area, so there's a lot we can learn from you as well. So I'm going to pick your brain later about some of that stuff, but thank you. I'm glad we're using the right tool here. Coming back to the businesses who have budget and who would like to engage an organization like yours or another organization, what are the things they need to look at, and what can they expect as results, and what type of budget do they need to allocate realistically? I'm talking about small to medium enterprises here.
Sure. So there's a couple of components there. So results in SEO is a very, obviously, as you alluded to with the small business ombudsman, expectation setting is a very important thing. And this is where I think a lot of SEO companies get it wrong. So there was actually, I've spoken about so many studies, but there was a very interesting one done, I believe, by Ahrefs, where they looked at the average age of a website that was sitting in page one of Google. And what they found is that across, globally, when they had a look, less than 2% of websites that were ranking on page one were actually under a year old. So this tells us that if we're dealing with a new website, a brand new website with no history from Google, you should be sort of buckling up that it's going to take at least a year before the website starts ranking for any meaningful keywords. Yep. So I would say for brand new websites, minimum 12 months to rank for really competitive keywords.
Fantastic advice.
Depending on that. But I will say, as you said, the numbers don't lie. Less than 2% are under a year old. Yeah. So you're in the very much the minority if you're ranking on page one for competitive keywords within 12 months. More established businesses where they already have some search engine visibility, we focus on something called keyword prioritization and really data analysis. So looking at the overall footprint of the website and then seeing where can we get some quick wins. So for instance, if we see that a keyword is sitting in position 10, that gets 10,000 searches per month. At the bottom of page one, you're only getting 1 or 2% click-through. But when you move that keyword up into, let's say, the top spot, on average it's 36%. On average, position 2 is about 20%. So you can literally get 10 times the amount of traffic from that keyword, moving it from position 10 to position 1. So for established websites with a footprint, we like to look for opportunities where they're already indexed within the search engines so that we can get a bit of a quicker win and get some critical mass. So really, yeah, for established websites, you can even see results within 3 months. First month strategy, second month sort of on-page SEO strategy and implementation. Third month, you start building some links. Fourth month, you can start seeing some uplift on those keywords, depending on where they're positioned. And I guess it's easy to move a keyword to a certain degree, or you'll notice quicker results moving a keyword from position 10 to position 5 than you will necessarily from pushing a keyword from page 10 to page 3.
That's correct. That's very true. Again, great advice there. Now, I want to now focus on these businesses that have a budget and want to deploy or employ an organization like yours. What type of budgets do they need to think of? And what's the process?
So we have budgets starting from about, the smallest package for a small business is about $1,000 a month, and the sky's the limit. You can go up to $50,000 or $60,000 a month, depending on the complexity of the project, what different types of tasks are needed in what volume. So we work off a really sort of transparent model where we have certain hours associated with a certain retainer. So it's not like a $50,000 a month client is working on a different process to a $1,000 a month client. It's just that the $60,000 a month client has more of those hours to do those tasks with. So I will say the framework remains consistent from a small business to a large business, but what it comes down to is, starting level of $1,000 a month up to, sort of sky's the limit. So the process is, if we're talking once the customer sort of signs on the contract and starts with us, month one we see as a really a strategy review process. So for us, you can't have a good SEO campaign without a really fantastic strategy. And a big mistake I see a lot of SEO agencies making is they jump straight into implementation without having a proper 12-month strategy built out. So in the first month, we go and do a really big research piece, look at the website, we look at the top competitors, we look at the keywords, and we look at the level of optimization that they have across the site and build out a 6 to 12 month plan based on their goals and based on that strategy. So it's an evidence-driven approach to doing optimization. So month one, strategy review, and we do a big consult at the end of the month saying, hey, here are all of the things that we found. Here are the areas the website's weak. These are the things we need to improve based on those 3 things: technical, relevance, authority. And then from month 2 onwards, we go into the actual implementation. So every month we're working on delivering on any one of those three areas based on the retainer. So optimizing the technical SEO, optimizing the relevancy and content. So things like keyword research and mapping, content suggestions, content strategy, technical SEO audits, and of course the big thing, the link building.
Thank you very much. And you're obviously very focused. As you said, you start with the end in mind and you set the strategy for 12 months as opposed to starting on day one, as a lot of people do, and then learn their errors.
Learn the hard
way down the track, which is very expensive. But so we've spoken about the technical SEO. When it comes to keywords and selecting keywords, and that's a craft in itself. What are the 5 things that people should consider here?
So when we look at keywords, and this is where we use the tool Ahrefs quite heavily, it's one thing to say, in our instance, I'll give an example, we're an SEO business, so we want to rank at the top of the search engine for SEO. But it's like, well, hang on a second, if you Google SEO, you're seeing Wikipedia, you're seeing informational style websites, which is good for branding, and I believe we do rank quite well for SEO. But that's one of the considerations is, hey, is this keyword actually going to drive the commercial outcome that we want? And what is the commercial outcome that we want? Do we want, to increase our brand? So people are associating us as a market leader and finding a really long form blog when they Google SEO that explains our full methodology. And if so, what's the actual commercial impact of that? How are we going to rank for that keyword? So this is the first thing, is just really understanding what is the outcome we want to get. And then the second thing is doing really, really good keyword profiling using Ahrefs. So once hey, Kate, we're an SEO business or a plumbing business or a web design business, and we've found some target terms, Ahrefs really allows you from a data-driven perspective to see what you can do, because it'll tell you, on estimate how many backlinks you need to rank for a specific keyword. It'll show you the types of content you need to produce. So this is where, when we're doing keyword selection, I think first things is understanding what we want to achieve, and then the second thing is looking at commercial feasibility of the keyword. Do we have enough budget to rank for the keyword? Do we have the resources in-house to produce the content and do the things that we need to do to rank for it? So that's the important thing. And that's, again, something I see so many search agencies and businesses get wrong is, they start an SEO campaign and then they just pick out a whole bunch of random keywords. Some of them are practical, some of them not, and you end up wasting so much resource. So we take our keyword research process alone takes 2 weeks for a customer. So it's very, very in-depth. And using those fundamentals that I just told you about.
Some really cool insights there for business owners. If you're listening, I think you should listen to that piece again. Picking those right keywords based on the competitiveness, value to your business is so crucial, because too many businesses spend years doing the wrong thing in this digital world. And by the time they realize it, their competitors have completely smashed them. And it's dangerous to do the wrong thing these days. So
it takes years to catch up.
Yeah, that's correct. I would really urge you to listen to that piece again, because there's a lot of insight, really cool insights there. Mez, you spoke about choosing keywords based on the strategy of your business. We hear about competitiveness of keywords. We hear of keyword difficulty. How do you decide on these keywords based on these factors?
I've personally found using Ahrefs helps to sort through a lot of that, because it gives you a definitive score on the keyword difficulty. So it gives you a score between 0 and 100, which makes it really easy. And that tells you, for instance, how many links on average the person ranking has. So how many links you'll need to build to rank for that keyword. But I would say, outside of that, one of the things I always like to do is have some sort of striking distance keywords. So things that we can realistically rank for in 3 to 6 months, whilst we're going after those really big, high search volume keywords that may take a little bit longer. And that's for 2 reasons. One, everyone wants results quickly. But secondly is that, particularly getting buy-in in the business, people want to see those increases initially and that the process is working. So if you put all of your eggs in the basket of ranking for SEO, it's easy to put that basket down because it's too difficult. Whereas, if we have some good shorter-term goals, where we can get some quick wins, you get a bit of the cake to eat too, as well as waiting.
Very true, absolutely. Looking at keyword difficulty, right? As I mentioned, we use Ahrefs, and so when you look at those numbers, do you say if it's over 50, it's more long-term keyword, or how do you make that ranking?
Sorry, could you repeat the question again, please, mate?
So say take Ahrefs for instance, and you get the keyword difficulties, and you've got to make those decisions about whether this is a long-term keyword because it's more competitive. This is more medium-term keyword, and this is more one of those shorter-term keywords that you can focus on so that you can get a quick win. So if you look at the keyword difficulty, say for the more longer-term keywords are the ones with keyword difficulty of over 60, or, how does that work?
Oh, I understand your question exactly now. Yeah, so I would say like lower competition keywords would be like 25 and under.
Yeah.
Medium level competition would be like maybe 30 to 40, 45. And then like super difficult keywords will be like 50 and above. And then it just gets compounding more difficult because it's
Right.
logarithmic. So it gets. So I would say, yeah, if you're looking for like lower competition keywords, anything under like 20 is fantastic, for a short-term goal, provided obviously the website has enough age. So this is where obviously relative to the specific site. Whereas, yeah, you may have an established website that already has a domain authority of 60 and there's a keyword that has a DA of 70 and it's already, keyword difficulty of 70 and they're already ranking, where it may be a really good idea to go after that initially, even though it's higher competition. So I think you need to not only keyword difficulty score, but you need to look at the website's capability to rank for those and where it is currently ranking.
That's fantastic advice again, because it's no point looking at the keyword difficulty because your capability or domain or authority of your website is really low. Now that makes it super hard. So there you go, some really wise words there. And Mez, volume is another important aspect of deciding a keyword, isn't it? How much search volume there is, and how do you look at volume?
Volume, we would use Google Keyword Planner tool, or we would use SEMrush or Ubersuggest. There's a number of cool tools to get keyword search volumes, but I would say the main ones would be Google Keyword Planner tool and SEMrush.
And when you choose volume, what's a volume you would not touch on? What's a volume you think you should go after?
I'm agnostic on that. I think the question really needs to be answered by looking at the commercial outcome for the keyword. I'll give you one example.
Yeah.
We worked with a really cool business that did this type of sort of a tilt building construction. So you see on some of these new apartment buildings, they'll have like a big louver that'll stretch off the side of the building, like maybe 10 or 20, 10 stories or something ridiculous. Now, the keyword, tilt construction or louvered tilt construction might only get 10 searches a month or 50 searches a month, but the value of that lead is millions and millions of dollars. So this is where I see that just looking at search volume on keywords is not always the best strategy, because typically, and I know this is probably no surprise to anyone, but longer tail keywords, so more specific keywords, tend to have a higher conversion rate. And I think this is where it just comes back to what is the goal that we want to achieve. If we are wanting to generate leads and we want to generate quickly, and there are low search volume keywords that have high quality leads, go for those every day of the week. In our own business, we're really focused at the moment on building our brand and thought leadership. So for us now, we're targeting keywords like SEO, online marketing, where we sit in position 1 above Wikipedia, because we know that whilst it may not deliver the best lead, it does position our brand in the best place. So I think that's where it's a matter of, just understanding the goal, starting with the end in mind, as I said, and working backwards to select the volumes that make sense.
Fantastic example. That's a really good example, because a lot of the time people might think, that keyword has very low volume and we shouldn't consider it. But then you got to look at it from the perspective of your business and the goals you're trying to achieve. So there you go. Again, being strategic about your choices. One of the things you mentioned was that your business ranks so well for those really repetitive keywords. Typically, we all know that a builder's house is never in order. So you're obviously a very different type of a builder, Mez.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Definitely in the first couple of years of the business, the vast majority of our work was just referral. And there was obviously only myself and my business partner. So we didn't have a sales team or a marketing team. We do now, thankfully. But we have focused really hard on our SEO for a couple of years. And, we definitely took the high road. So we've done everything white hat. We produce long form blogs, 5,000 to 20,000 words. We did one 40,000 word blog the other day. We focus on getting really good quality links. So, targeting editorial level websites. And it was a slow process. It took us probably, I'd say, at least 2 years to probably even up to 3 years to really rank competitively. But now if you Google SEO Sydney or Brisbane or Gold Coast or Melbourne or online marketing, digital marketing agency, I think we're actually the most visible agency site in Australia. And it's had a tremendous impact on our business. But it was not a quick fix. It was not a cheap fix. It was a very laborious, and it is an ongoing process every month. So I will say, yes, we do have very much, eating our own dog food and testing the process ourselves. And it's as I said, it's been a game changer. 64% of B2B buyers start their search online. So we figured, we were after that. So we got to be online, right?
Congratulations. I know lots of different organizations in different industries when it comes to their business. While they're very good at helping others, including, consultants of all types, they forget to get their house in order. So you guys are very different. I can tell you, we speak to a few thousand businesses each year or so. That's amazing. Mez, I want to ask you one last question. I hope that is all right, because I've already picked your brain. You've given some amazing insights. This one is more a selfish question. Now, take netStripes. What we do is very different. What we do is we help small and medium businesses to move their traditional business models and become digitally successful. That transitioning of their business models from traditional to digital. Now, there's no keyword for that, right? Nobody searches for digital transformation for a small business. Or they probably do, but very few would know that's what they need. What's your advice there?
It's a very good question. And it's a question we get asked a lot in the B2B space, which is, hey, we have this really cool service. The service works, but what do people actually put into Google when they want to find this? And I think sometimes there are certain industries where their buyers are not searching on Google and, they're searching in other areas. So for instance, I just mentioned to you 64% of B2B buyers start their search online. The inverse of that means that 56% of B2B buyers don't start their search. I hope that math is correct. 56% don't start their search online, they're starting somewhere else. So this is where, I see things like LinkedIn work really, really well. So for us, our primary, really good customers is like a digital marketing manager or marketing manager. And sometimes these people don't go to search engines. They go and look at recommendations on LinkedIn. We recently won a, really large project with a global pharmaceutical company where they found us through a post on LinkedIn. So I would suggest for netStripes, it's probably good to really profile who are the buyers who are buying our product and how can we reach them directly. So, target account selling and go to them with the message that we know that they'll resonate with. So, adding them on LinkedIn, sharing with them an ebook or a, learning piece of content that can get them into our funnel. And then from there, we remarket to them. We do email marketing until they're ready to buy. So instead of filling up the top of the funnel with SEO traffic and paid search traffic like we have, we're just filling it up with traffic from LinkedIn or even cold emails. I know cold emails is something which is, had a bit of a dirty name, and it's obviously you have to be careful that you're not doing things which are considered spam, but, doing targeted outreach to buyers with a customized message is extremely done. So I would suggest, if there's not necessarily search volume for what you guys are selling in Google, there are plenty of other resources. LinkedIn I found is amazing, emailing, amazing. As long as, you're adding value and giving a good, correct message to someone, then those other channels work a charm.
Fantastic. I did say you were an absolute expert when I started. That last question and your answer has really underlined that. Mez, I don't say this lightly. People who know me know that, but I got to tell you, when netStripes started, our whole approach to the way we marketed ourselves was very much like what you have just mentioned. We got the message out through the massive events we ran, and our whole goal for SEO was we wanted people to search for us as netStripes. So our killer keyword was netStripes, and that's what we really targeted with. And I think that's what your message was there as well. So I really value this time we've spent together. I think we need to have more of you. I must find a way of getting you into our webinars as well, so that more people need to hear this message.
I love
OMG and what you guys do. I know for those who are listening, OMG looks after some of the largest and the best known brands when it comes to their search and their Google advertising. Or Mez tells me they are very good. And for a fact now from what you've heard, he knows his stuff. And Mez, congratulations for all the hard work you and your founders have done in building it. It's never easy. Always so many challenges as you start up, and to survive in a highly competitive industry and build a business like you have does take courage, but it does really take strategy and perseverance. So well done.
Thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate the kind words, and it's definitely been a fun process, and there's still so much more to go. My beard is a lot wider than it used to be. It didn't used to have so many whites in it when I started at 21. But yeah, no, thank you so much.
Fabulous having you, Mez, again. Let's catch up again and we'll have you back. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much.